Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. This is Sky News Breakfast. Top stories today, BMX bombshell. Great Britain's Charlotte Worthington takes home the gold medal in the first ever BMX freestyle competition at the Olympic Games. Duncan Scott makes history in the pool, the first British Olympian ever to win 4 medals at a single Games, as the swimmer takes silver in the 4x100 metre medley relay.
And I'm here in Stirling, in Duncan's hometown, where the hard work for that journey began.
Also this morning, free pizza and discounted taxis. The new government drive to persuade young people to get their jab. Volunteer race marshal is killed in a crash at Brands Hatch after a car spins off the track. Police warnings as a 21-year-old dies and 2 others are in hospital after taking drugs at a club in North London. Wildfires rage in southern Europe and around the Mediterranean, forcing tourist resorts to be evacuated.
Good morning. For many of us, it's a disappointing day for the time of year, the start of August then, a little bit cool and changeable, but there will be some sunny spells around this afternoon. Just watch out for a few heavy showers, especially in the south.
And at 2:15, we'll take you through the papers with the anthropologist Mariana Hosser and the editor of the Sunday Express, Michael Booker. Morning to you. We're starting with more success for Team GB in Tokyo. The former chef, Charlotte Worthington, made history this morning, becoming the first ever Olympic champion in BMX freestyle. The 25-year-old crashed in the first of her 2 runs in the final, but landed a sensational range of tricks and flicks in her second to bring home the gold. In the men's freestyle, Great Britain's Dixon won bronze. And in the pool, the success continued, with Team GB taking the silver in the male 4x100 metre medley relay. And that means Duncan Scott has now become the most decorated British Olympian at a single Games ever, after winning 4 medals in the pool. Tom Parminter has the latest from Tokyo.
Yes, these games are proving such a breakthrough moment for the sport of BMX, and this is where all the action happened down at the Urban Sports Park in Tokyo. Charlotte Worthington from Manchester, 25 years old, and she was pulling off tricks on her BMX in the freestyle competition that you wouldn't think are possible until you see her actually do them. An incredible performance, so captivating to watch, and she comes away with a gold medal, a real standout performance. And in the men's freestyle BMX, Declan Brooks from Portsmouth followed up about half an hour later with a bronze medal. So really successful Games for the BMX team. 4 medals in total, 2 of them gold, and they have dominated the competition down here. We've seen further success in the swimming pool for the men's relay team. Silver medals there, so Duncan Scott, we've been talking about him so much over the course of the last week. He now has 4 medals around his neck from these Games, 3 silver, 1 gold, the most decorated athlete in one Games for Team GB. A real standout performance from Duncan Scott in the pool. In the boxing, we know that there are more medals on their way for Pat McCormack from Tyne and Wear. He's got through to a gold or silver medal match that he will fight later in the week. Same situation for Ben Whittaker as well on the boxing team. He too will fight for either silver or gold later next week. Today, later on, we have Max Whitlock going in the gymnastics, and of course it is the standout event, the 100-metre men's final, going off later, just before 2 o'clock UK time. Zarnell Hughes from Team GB will be hoping to try and get through to the final to take his place in that historic event. It really is one of those moments that everyone stops and watches what happens in under 10 seconds. And it is, of course, a great success so far for Team GB with those BMX medals here. It's unlikely that they'll be among the medals in the 100-metre final, but what a Games this is proving to be.
So, Duncan Scott has made history. The first British athlete to win 4 medals at a single Olympic Games. Let's head to where the journey began for him. Sadia Chowdhury's at the University of Stirling, where he trains. I mean, they must be all smiles there, Sadia.
Indeed they are. This is the swimming pool where Duncan Scott has trained before going to Tokyo to make history. In fact, he's a graduate of the University of Stirling here. He graduated just in June this year, where we can go over now and speak to the Executive Director of Sport here, Kathy Gallagher. Thank you very much for speaking to us. What an incredible journey it has been for him.
It's been amazing, and aside from indeed many bleary eyes, not only in the University of Stirling this morning but right around Scotland, we're absolutely thrilled for Duncan's achievements. He's been established himself on the world stage for a few years now, 7 Commonwealth Games medals, 5 World Championships and now 6 Olympic golds, and the most decorated British athlete of all times at a single game, so yeah, it's phenomenal.
And he's the first University of Stirling graduate to get an Olympic gold. Are we going to see more budding swimmers coming up for Paris?
That's certainly the plan. At the University of Stirling, we're Scotland's University for Sporting Excellence, UK Sports University of the Year 2020, so we've huge ambitions for sport. And led by our head performance coach, Steve Tigg, the plan is to attract the best young athletes here to the University of Stirling, and also supported by our partnership with Scottish Swimming and British Swimming. So we won't rest on our laurels, and we want to see more Duncan Scotts and indeed Kathleen Dawsons, etc. here at the University of Stirling.
And have you heard from Duncan since the win this morning, or was everyone awake watching it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been awake actually most of the week. Our body clocks are certainly all over the place. But no, we haven't been in direct contact with Duncan, but obviously in contact with the coaching team and indeed his parents as well. So everybody's just revelling in the success and taking real pride. It's been a tough year, it's been a tough time, as everybody knows, and this has brought a lot of delight and a lot of joy to a lot of people. So we'll continue to celebrate that, and we look forward to welcome all the swimmers and indeed the coach back to campus.
I'm sure you will. Thank you so very much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Well, as Kathy said there is so much pride here. In fact, since yesterday when I arrived here, everyone I've been speaking to is so proud of Duncan Scott's achievements, and they all think that there are plenty more medals to come in his career.
Yeah, quite sure. Sadia, thank you. Well, let's talk to the Chief Executive of British Swimming, Jack Buckner. Good to see you this morning, Jack. I mean, they're all proud of Duncan there. You must be proud of every single swimmer taking part. What an Olympics!
Yes, it's been fabulous, and we're really proud. And yes, but at the same time, I wouldn't have thought we'd be sat here this morning with a silver medal, a European record, and actually we feel a little disappointed, which is a sign of our ambition and how we want to keep moving forward, really. So I know how much they wanted to win that last event, and I think you'll have seen their reaction. There was a little bit of disappointment, actually, which again is something we can build on.
Yeah. I mean, building on things. I mean, swimming's just gone from strength to strength for Team GB. What have you done? What's the magic here?
Well, we worked really hard. I mean, we need to say a lot of thanks, starting with the National Lottery, because we couldn't do this without the investment we get. So in some ways, a bit of these medals belongs to all the British public. We've also got fantastic support from our partners, but we've been working really hard at what we call one team and winning well. And that's been really a full team approach through the coaches and through the swimmers, through people like Kathy at the University of Stirling. So it's a real partnership approach that we worked on for a number of years. And I think at the heart of that is that kind of dedication to improvement, but this sense of the team, but also we want to win, but we want to win well. And I think that's really come across this last week.
I was talking to Chris Akabusi just a short time ago, and he was saying that he thinks, and you may disagree, but he thinks that Adam Peaty has been just a catalyst somehow, that once he's sort of had his tremendous success, that people feed off that. People are driven by that within the team. Would you agree?
I think that's true. And he's as you can see, he's a phenomenal leader. And that definitely, when you step into the water or get into the pool with someone like Adam Peaty, you know that you need to improve your performance. But we should also note, you've just been in Stirling with Duncan Scott, so he's a leader there. And we talk about Tom Dean in Bath as well, and James Guy. So we have got these three sort of centres, and there are leaders that are developing across. And also, there's a lot more to come. So I don't think we should, it's just not the Adam Peaty show, even though you're right, and Chris is right. He's been a catalyst to give that confidence.
So where do you take it from here? I mean, obviously, there's what, 1 more day, 2 more days of competition to go in the pool, so we'll see what happens there. But how do you take this beyond this Olympics and keep the momentum going? Well,
we need to keep building. We need to just keep building, and we need to take confidence that we're building solid foundations here. We'll sit down and debrief with our partners, But we feel there's a long way to go. You know, we finished third in the medal table for swimming, but there's a lot of other medals to be got in the sport. What we'd love to be the great start for Team GB, so that when you get to the Olympic Games, the British public can look forward to our performances in the pool. So we're not there yet. There's lots of finals to go at. There's another generation coming through, so we need to nurture them and develop them and keep moving forward for Paris, which is only 3 years away.
1908, which was, 113 years ago, we had the same tally in the pool as we got now. So we're currently at the joint best ever performance. You're going to beat it, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah, we will do, and we're really confident about that. So yes, it is. It's going really well, and we're very excited about what we can deliver as well. Plus, also, there is the diving as well, and we've seen Tom Daley earlier in the week, which was an absolutely magical moment. So our eyes will be back on the pool for the diving, and then there's Jack Law and Tom Daley's individual. So we're not finished yet.
No, that's the way. That's the attitude, Jack. Really good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to see that smile as well. Absolute pride, quite right too. So after 1 gold, 1 silver and 1 bronze for Team GB so far today, this is how the medal table looks at the moment. Team GB in 6th with 9 goals. China tops the leaderboard, 22. United States second with 19. Now, discounted pizza and cheaper taxis will be offered to young people in a bid to drive vaccine uptake, with almost 3 million under-30s yet to get their first COVID jab. Uber, Bolt, Deliveroo and Pizza Pilgrims amongst the brands that are offering incentives to encourage young people to get vaccinated. Ivor Bennett reports.
This pizza chain is trying to increase customers' appetites, not for pizza, but for protection against COVID-19. It's planning to offer a free slice to anyone who gets a jab, as part of a government-led initiative to boost vaccine uptake among the young.
If that is the difference for somebody who is tight on time to come and get their jab, then yeah, we're happy to give them a slice of pizza when they've had their jab. Absolutely. It's more of a way to sweeten the deal, really, rather than some sort of discount. It really is for us just the right thing to do.
The Department of Health says around a third of under-30s still haven't received a first dose, despite being eligible. That's equivalent to nearly 3 million people who'll now be offered various incentives.
I think it's like a funny concept to think that this is what young people do just for vaccine. Like, it's like dangling a carrot in front of a donkey.
I don't feel like it's that urgent. I don't really mingle like that in a lot of close quarters environments. I work from home as well.
But a free slice of pizza might sway you.
It might, yeah, especially if it's a big one as well, a large one. Might go for that.
Ride-hailing apps like Uber and Bolt are also part of the scheme, offering discounted journeys to passengers who receive a vaccine. App users will also be offered free rides to vaccination centres to make it as easy as possible for young people to get a jab. But there are questions over whether incentives like these are really the right approach. Some scientists fear the strategy could backfire, believing the various carrots and sticks will just create confusion.
Well, I think you could easily alienate people. I mean, what we've got to do, I think, is have much better messaging to younger folk about the benefits of vaccination for them personally and for the people around them, and be very clear about that messaging, rather than trying to bring in, vaccine passports by the end of September for access to various venues, etc.
But at this stage, it seems the government's keen to try every strategy it can, hoping this will provide the nudge that some people need. Ivor Bennett, Sky News.
A 21-year-old man has died and 2 others have been hospitalised after taking drugs at a North London nightclub in the early hours of yesterday morning. It's thought the men, who were all at the Cause in Tottenham, didn't know each other, so police have urged people who bought drugs in and around the club to dispose of the substances as soon as possible. 1 in 5 businesses say they're planning to lay off staff from today as the government's furlough support begins to wind down. That's according to the British Chamber of Commerce, who are calling for extra training to support workers who are made redundant to transition into new roles. A 22-year-old man has been arrested after hitting a police officer on an e-scooter and breaking his leg. Happened in northwest London yesterday during a police operation to crack down on illegal e-scooter use. The man had been told to stop before the collision but failed to do so. An investigation's underway after a race marshal was killed in a crash at Brands Hatch. Aisha Zahid is in the newsroom for us. What happened, Aisha?
The incident happened yesterday afternoon, just before 3 p.m, and it happened at Brands Hatch Circuit in Kent. The British Automobile Racing Club were holding one of their car championship events there, and during one of the races, two of the cars made contact. It happened on the start-finish straight of one of the opening laps, and after making contact, one of the cars lost control. It spun off the track and hit one of the barriers, and after hitting the barriers, it continued to flip over and then eventually collided with the Marshall post. Now, emergency services attended the scene. There was an air ambulance present, and unfortunately, it was confirmed that one of the volunteer marshals lost his life. We don't have an update on the driver's condition, but we have had a statement from the BARC, and in that statement, they said, "On behalf of everyone connected with the BARC, we are devastated by the loss of one of the amazing volunteer marshal community who do so much to enable the sport to take place. Our thoughts and best wishes are with the family and friends of all those involved." Now, the rest of the events yesterday were cancelled, but it's believed that they will go ahead today. And Motorsport UK, the governing body, have said they're launching an investigation into what happened. They'll be working with the BARC and the police. And I think some questions will be raised over, especially over the safety protocols in place at events like this one.
OK, Aisha, thank you. Wildfires are continuing to rage in southern Europe and Turkey as temperatures there hit 40 Celsius. Tourists in Turkey rushed to the shore to try to get on rescue boats after they were told to evacuate resorts on the south coast because of the fires. They've claimed the lives of 6 people and have burned through homes and are spreading across tourist destinations. Towns on the Italian island of Sicily have also had wildfires, fuelled by temperatures in the region topping 45 degrees. On Friday, more than 150 people were evacuated from the area, with helicopters and planes called in. People in Greece are also grappling with fires, large blazes tearing through western regions and burning through forests. They broke out just east of Patras, the country's third largest city, and spread towards the coast. No reported deaths there, but 5 people have been hospitalised. Right, this is Sky News Breakfast. Let's see what the weather's going to do for us over here today. Slightly better, but still a bit miserable, Kirsty.
Pretty much sums it up. Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, it is a wee bit better. There will be showers around, but not as many as recent days. And we will see some sunshine. It's just a bit disappointingly cool for August, but maybe a good thing for some. I know not everyone likes the heat. So yeah, more of the same to come, and then a bit more unsettled as we head into next week.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Good morning. For many of us, it's going to be a day of sunshine and showers. The showers focused in the south and a bit more sunshine further north, but with a northerly wind today, it will feel a little bit chilly. Now, we have got the remnants of a fairly weak weather front, a cold front moving southwards across England and Wales. That means more cloud to start the day with some showery rain in places, but the cloud will be breaking up. So although for many it's a cloudy start, I'm optimistic there'll be at least some bright, if not sunny spells for a time as we head into the afternoon. Now, temperatures today will be high teens to the low 20s, so around or below what we'd expect for the time of year, and maybe disappointing really for the start of August. There'll be a few showers around this afternoon. Some of those could turn a little bit heavy and maybe thundery in the south, just something to keep an eye on. As we go through the evening, the showers will fade away, and then it's a largely dry night with clear skies, cooler than recent nights. As we go through Monday then, after that chilly start, sunshine and a few showers for England and Wales, but some rain moving in across parts of Ireland.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Kirsty, thank you. Jamie, what have you got for us?
Yes, another busy day of sport ahead. Lewis Hamilton is on pole for this afternoon's Hungarian Grand Prix, but find out why it wasn't all smiles for the defending world champion. We will bring you the action from what was a feisty second test between the British and Irish Lions and South Africa in Cape Town. And things are going from bad to worse for new Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou.
Like pulling us out of that little room.
Mandatory evacuation.
I'm Greg Milam, Sky's US correspondent here in Los Angeles. It is almost impossible to predict where these fires will go next. We aim to be the best and most trusted place for news. This gives you an idea of the strength of those winds, strong enough to bend and twist metal.
Are you trying to run me over, Sir Philip?
No, go away.
Look like it, sir.
You need to leave, but you're not understanding.
I've seen the dark side of America. We are standing on the supply line right into the heart of America's opioid crisis. I've seen heartbreaking human stories. Christchurch has been changed forever by what happened here.
Bye-bye.
Lots going on this weekend, Jamie.
Yes, and it was a frustrating day yesterday for Lions fans. Really difficult watch, but for South Africa, just the win they needed, and it has set up a series decider next weekend.
This sports bulletin is brought to you by Vitality, committed to getting 100 million people 20% more active by 2025.
At the age of 6, I had meningitis, septicemia, and they said I'd never walk again. My Achilles in my left leg shrunk, so that meant that sort of my knees weren't in line with my hips, so they said that I'd constantly have problems with that. A year and a half later, I started going outside. I was back walking, running, and then I got signed for QPR, age 8. So yeah, it's a miracle really that I was being able to walk and run again.
How did you go from struggling to walk to being able to run around and be able to play with the kids? But the kids were really good at football.
Both my legs were in plaster for about 6 months. I was in a wheelchair. I can't remember exactly how I started walking again, but I used to have to wear like night splints, so my legs were constantly in splints to help me walk. Mentally, when I come out of hospital, I was like a different child. My mum said it wasn't the same child that went into hospital. I had brain damage from it, and I was on life support for 6 days. I've got obviously ADHD, I was diagnosed, OCD, personality disorder. I've got a few things. So that, as well as sort of playing football, was a massive sort of risk. I was lonely. I felt like at a very lonely place with this injury now. Beforehand, I was constantly on a high. I always thought I will get through whatever I go through, and that's the way I do see it, because I do. Whatever I go through, I do get through eventually. And it sort of proved that I do. But I'm driven to really do well, and I don't want to let myself down. And my last game I played was on the 20th of January 2020. I started to feel really unwell, and I felt like my throat was swelling. I remember going to bed and waking up, and I thought I was dying. I remember sitting there on the end of the bed and sort of saying, sorry.
It's okay.
I remember saying to the nurse, like, my mental health was bad and this has really, really topped it off. And she got sort of a woman to come round and speak to me. And the woman, I know she was trying to help. She was saying, you know, doesn't matter about football, like you can take another journey. And I remember sitting there thinking, another journey? I've worked so hard for this, and it's not about taking another journey. This is something I love, and it's been taken away from me. So being on crutches and not being able to move around, not being able to feel my leg, I honestly thought it was the end of the world. I can now only feel the inside and the back and the front. I still can't feel the whole outside of my leg. And they said that probably won't repair. But I think the scary part now is I might not play competitively. I might not. But in my head, I feel like I know I will. Bees were brilliant with me. They kept me going.
Yes!
Especially Lee, Sean, all the staff here. And I felt so involved. I remember ringing the crisis team, and I said, like, I hate my life. Sorry, it's okay. I don't want to be here anymore. Please, I was like, I just need help, and I just kept saying, please just help me. In the last sort of month, I've motivated myself to think, you know, you can't stay in this dark place. I've got to do the work. Like, I've got to get myself out of it. I think that a lot of footballers, when they have an injury, people just say, you know, you're a footballer, you'll be back. But it's not that simple. It's what it does to you mentally. I've still come to training on days where I felt horrendous, but no one would ever think that I feel like that. I do think that just don't stop, don't give up.
You deserve something good, a great end to the year, don't you?
Yes,
so
I
what
do.
is a great 2021 then?
I just want to be back. Even pre-season, contact, and then playing. I just want to be on that pitch. There's nothing I want more than to just be back playing.
I'm not betting against you.
Committed to getting 100 million people 20% more active by 2025.
Jamie, thank you. This is Sky News Breakfast. Still to come, historic England have warned that thatched cottages may disappear from our landscape in as little as 2 years because of supply problems. More in a minute.
Watching ITV News Meridian here in the southeast.
Your headlines this Friday evening.
to you. Faced with empty shelves and some panic buying.
ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Now then, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Never mind the rain.
Yeah, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good evening. You're watching ITV News Meridian here in the south.
Your headlines this Friday evening.
Good evening to you. Well, the summer getaway was never going to be breaking with app. Good evening. You're watching ITV News Meridian here in the Thames Valley.
Tonight's headlines this Friday evening.
Good evening to you. Well, the summer getaway was never going to be straightforward this year.
News Hour continues here with Charlene White.
Emma's got Alan News, but for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend, whatever the weather, and take care.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to Friday's programme.
Coming up tonight between now and 6:30. Good evening. A combination of staff shortages, hot weather and rising rates of coronavirus continue to put increasing pressure on Bristol's hospitals. You can head to itv.com/Pride of Britain and follow the links. The closing date for nominations is Friday the 13th of August. And full terms and conditions can be found at itv.com/Pride of Britain.
Well, that's goodbye from all of us for now. I'll have the late news for you, though, at 10 to 11.
Whatever you're doing, have a lovely weekend. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to Friday's programme.
Coming up tonight between now and 6:30.
The transgender athlete Laurel Hubbard has thanked Olympic organisers for allowing her to compete in this year's Games. The New Zealand weightlifter is the first openly transgender athlete to compete in an individual sport in the history of the Olympics. Tom Parmenter reports from Tokyo.
There was a time when Laurel Hubbard, the weightlifter, was Gavin Hubbard. She transitioned in 2012 and still now divides opinion. She's only spoken a few times about her place in women's weightlifting.
People will think, they will feel, they will believe what is right for them. And I'm not here to change the world. I'm just here to be myself.
The Olympics drew up new guidelines for trans athletes in 2015. Joanna was one of the advisors, and they decided to set the criteria around a measurement of testosterone levels.
Yes, Laurel has advantages, but within this group of 14 women that she's competing against, Laurel's probably somewhere in the middle of the pack. She could theoretically finish anywhere from 3rd to 14th. And isn't that sort of the definition of fair competition, is that a lot of things could potentially happen?
There are other competitors who argue it simply isn't fair to the women she competes against. The Team GB weightlifters are just trying to focus on their own preparations.
Obviously, it's a controversial topic, but at the end of the day, the rules have been set by the IOC and the IWF, so she's allowed to compete. She'll be competing against my teammate, Emily Campbell. Obviously, we'll put all our support behind Emily, and it'll be a great competition to watch.
The first openly trans Olympian was actually a Canadian footballer in these games called Quinn. They posted, "I feel optimistic for change. Change in legislature, changes in rules, structures and mindsets." Laurel Hubbard will follow in those footsteps. There is no scenario in which everyone is kept happy, but it is happening. Tom Parmenter, Sky News, Tokyo.
Now, experts are warning that traditional thatched cottages could completely disappear from our landscape in as little as 2 years. Well, let's talk to Head of Building Conservation at Historic England, Alison Henry. Good to see you this morning. What's going on?
Well, I hope it's not as bad as that they'll disappear in 2 years. I think we've got a little longer than that. But thatch has been on the decline for a long time now, really since the mid-19th century. There've always been problems that beset thatch. There've always been bad harvests and so on. But it seems to be on a bit of a knife edge at the moment. There's lots of problems about labour supply for producing the thatching materials, and a lot of the machinery that's used is really antiquated. So there are concerns around that as well, whether, you know, on the health and safety side, that needs to be improved. We've had imports of thatching materials that have threatened the domestic supply. And so, yeah, so it's sort of a perfect storm, really. And then in the last couple of years, we have had a few bad harvests. But there are some positives as well, so it's not all bad.
OK, so I mean, there is a problem, I understand, with supplies of the... It has to be a sort of particularly long sort of straw, doesn't it? And not enough farmers producing that.
That's right. So, I mean, there are two main types of thatching material used. One is water reed, that was always used historically in certain very localised areas. But by far and away, the majority of thatch, particularly in lowland areas since medieval times, has been this really long-stemmed traditional wheat varieties. And yes, very few people are growing this type of wheat now. There's very little investment in machinery because it is such a minority crop. It's much more susceptible to poor weather than the short-stemmed wheat varieties that are grown, you know, mainly for the grain, for bread, for example. So in my own area in Somerset, in the last few days, we've been having torrential downpours and strong winds, and that's the worst possible thing at harvest time. But I think most of the farmers have got the crop in just in the nick of time. But otherwise, it's not flat, and you can't really harvest it for good quality straw. So yeah, it's a real challenge.
May sound... I'm not trying to sound rude, but would it matter if thatched cottages, thatched roofs disappeared? I mean, obviously, you know, it is a very old and ancient sort of tradition. Would it matter if they went?
I think it would. I think a lot of people would agree that it would matter. I think, you know, thatched cottages are so picturesque, and I think they are really right up there with our great cathedrals and country houses in terms of what visitors come to see when they visit, well, not only England. I mean, there used to be strong traditions of thatch as well in Wales and Scotland and Ireland. So they are a real fundamental part of our history. But I think more than that, they create a really strong sense of place. They have very strong regional characteristics. So thatch in one area is very different to thatch in another part of the country. So that creates a strong sense of local identity. And I mean, that's something that, you know, in the last week or so, the government have announced the new Office for Place. So that's recognising the importance of, you know, local identity in the places where people live. So that's important too, but also in terms of sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, what?
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, how effective are they in you know, compared to sort of modern roofing and the sort of new tiles that we see now?
Well, they're very effective. I mean, thatch has kept buildings dry, you know, since medieval times, and we've got quite a number of thatch buildings that still have medieval base coats. You know, the very lowest coats that have survived. With the straw thatches, very often you just tend to put a new coat on top of the old, so you can get this build-up of thatch over the years. And as I say, some have survived from medieval times. So as a roof covering, it is effective. Of course, it's not quite as long-lived as some of the other materials like tiles or slate. but it's, you know, you could argue it's a lot more sustainable because it's a low input crop, very low carbon footprint. We can grow it in this country. I think we should probably grow a lot more so that we're not relying on imports or, you know, things like fired clay tiles have a lot more embodied energy. So in terms of our concern over climate change, I think thatch has a lot to offer. And of course, it's a really good insulator. So
yeah. My other half's Uncle Chris is a thatcher, as it goes. For people like him watching, I mean, is there still a bright future ahead, do you think?
I think it's going to be a rocky road. I think there could be lights at the end of the tunnel. We're about to start a big research project at Historic England, going to be working with lots of different sectors, not just the thatching industry. There are a lot of factors that feed into this. So we're going to be working with producers and growers and trying to...
And that is it. Lucrezia Millerini is here.
Incentivise production of good quality thatching straw. We're also going to be looking at machinery and innovation, the labour supply, seeing can we find new markets for some of these materials. And one of the possibles there is trying to work more closely with the artisan bread producers, because they like the same old-fashioned wheat varieties that are really good for thatching. So there are, you know, there is some hope. It's going to take a lot of hard work. Trying to bring everybody together to work out what's best and, yeah, to ensure a future so that Uncle Chris has got a job and can carry on thatching these buildings.
Yeah. At the end of the day, they look absolutely stunning when they're done, don't they? Absolutely beautiful. Really good to talk to you, Alison. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Bye-bye.
OK. Let's get a check on the weather for you this morning. Kirsty, it looks still a few blue patches on that map, I hate to say.
I've done my best with the rubber, but they are not coming off. Yes, it's the start of August. You maybe thought you'd be expecting something a little bit hotter and nicer, but it's not quite so nice today. We have got a few sharp showers to watch out in the south, but there will be some sunny spells to enjoy.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Good morning. For most of us, it's going to be a case of sunny spells and showers over the next few days. Fewer showers than of late, so more in the way of drier weather. Bit of a cloudy start, though, and we have got a weak weather front sinking southwards, bringing with it some outbreaks of rain. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, looking largely dry and brighter spells to come, but a bit of a northerly wind, so it will feel rather chilly, especially for those North Sea facing coasts. Top times today, high teens, low 20s. Greatest chance of a shower this afternoon across the south. Some heavy, maybe thundery ones for southern parts of England.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Kirsty, thank you. Stay with us here on Sky News Breakfast. We're going to take you through the papers in a couple of minutes.
I believe we've got 5 years to set in train a whole series of a program of work. And if we do all of that, we will have a safe future for mankind going well into the next century as well as this one. But if we don't do this, then I'm afraid even in 30 years' time, the situation is looking very, very challenging. The analysis is showing that even by mid-century, if we take Southeast Asia as a region of the world where sea level rises due to melting ice on Greenland, due to melting ice elsewhere on the planet, raising sea levels globally, we are going to see Southeast Asia maybe 100 million, maybe 300 million refugees, because regions of that world will be underwater too regularly, under seawater. If we take Vietnam, this vast country, which has the Mekong Delta and produces the world's third biggest supply of rice, will be under seawater and estimated once a year by mid-century. The cities around that region, many of them will be unlivable. These are cities with 15 million people plus. And these are cities with a massive investment into the infrastructure in those cities. We are looking at a situation in the near future that is really too grim to contemplate. So what we're saying is we must we've got to reduce emission rapidly. We must remove the excess greenhouse gases we've already put into the atmosphere that are creating the challenges that we are all seeing this summer in the Northern Hemisphere. And then we've got to do something else, which is refreeze the Arctic, because it's the unfreezing of the Arctic sea ice that is exposing the Arctic Sea to that summer sun, which we all know is 24-hour sun at the North Pole during the Arctic summer. And that blue sea soaks up the sunshine, whereas the white ice reflected it back into space. And that's the big source of all of the big challenges that we're seeing now.
We are at a breaking point and we need to work now and fast.
Even though young people are vulnerable to the impact of climate change, young people can also become the change agents that we need to address the climate impact. In my campaign or in my advocacy work, I work largely with young people so that their voices can be heard, so they can also influence decision making from the local level to the national level. And thankfully, we are making progress in that regard.
Did you know that driving us to school creates extra toxic air at drop-off and pick-up times?
Sunshine and showers for most today, but some heavy downpours are possible in the south. A rather cloudy start this morning. Sunny spells will develop, but there's a risk of scattered showers, especially over parts of England, Wales and eastern parts of Northern Ireland. A little bit on the cool side, and some of the showers in the south could turn heavy and possibly thundery before fading this evening. Air pollution levels remain low across the UK, with little change expected in the coming week.
The Air Quality Report, sponsored by Philips Air Purifiers.
Well, let's take you through the papers once again this morning with the anthropologist Mariana Hotter and editor of the Sunday Express, Michael Booker. Good to see you both. I want to start, if we can, Michael, with the Mail on Sunday, because this intrigued me. I saw it on the list last hour. Keir Starmer is tapping up Gary Neville.
Yeah, now, as Marianne said in the last hour, Labour are flailing around looking for something. They're trying to find out who they appeal to and who they need to appeal to. And obviously, in times of trouble, you turn to Sky for help, but they haven't turned to Stephen Dixon to be their figurehead. They've turned to Sky Sports' Gary Neville instead. They see him as the charismatic man of the people who, he has become fairly political, particularly on social media, but he came to the fore during the row over the Super League a few months ago, and he seemed to stir up and unite football fans behind him in opposition to the big football teams getting together, breaking away and forming this European Super League. Now, Keir Starmer, he's seen this and he's had a couple of Zoom chats with Gary Neville over a few things. And even though he was once linked to some of Jeremy Corbyn, the former Labour leader's policies, which he particularly liked, they reckon that it's a good idea to have him inside the tent and be on their side, despite the Corbyn connections. So there's speculation that he could even be a candidate to be the next mayor of Manchester if Andy Burnham decides to go back into national politics. But the problem is, when you do start palling up with someone who is charismatic, who does talk the talk and does seem quite someone who would appeal to quite a few people, is that they suddenly voters start looking at them instead of you. And I think that's Keir Starmer's problem. If he pals up with someone with more charisma, they're going to go for Gary Neville instead eventually. And I think that's the problem he's going to face. Last night Gary Neville was talking about Lord Digby Jones and the criticism that he'd given Alex Scott on the Olympics coverage about her pronunciation, and he said, maybe we should have a quiet revolution. And again, quickly, a lot of people got behind him. So he does have power. He has quite a few million Twitter followers. And, even though a lot of, Leeds United fans and Liverpool fans wouldn't like it, you never know. They could get behind Gary Neville.
Oh, they could do. They could do. They should all take a leaf out of the book for everyone who sits in this studio and stay politically neutral. It's the easiest way to be, I think. Mary-Ann, let's look at the Times. A real concerning story about suicide in prisons.
Yeah, this is it's pretty depressing news to read. So this is off the back of an initial report that has been published over the death of a young woman called Annalise Sanderson, who was just 18 years old when she took her own life whilst she was in prison, HMP Style, which is in Cheshire, a women's prison. Now, Annalise had a history of mental ill health. She'd made suicide attempts previously, and she was arrested and then charged and put in prison, ultimately for shoplifting and assault. But off the back of being in a place of extreme mental distress, really, and ended up in the criminal justice system. When she first got to prison, she was put on suicide prevention plan. But then at the time that she did take her own life, she wasn't. She hadn't been referred to a psychologist. She hadn't been referred to a psychiatrist. And this report identifies that many of the staff who were in contact with Annalise didn't follow the recommendations for the guidelines for suicide prevention. And hadn't had the training. So they didn't actually know what it was that they were supposed to do, how to identify distressed individuals, and then what to do about them to support them and help them into treatment. Every suicide is preventable, and that includes people in prison who've been charged with offences. And this is just the challenge, the thing that's really depressing about this story about Annalise and the loss to her family is that it's not the first time. You know, other people, other mothers have come out, other families, parents have come out and said the exact same thing happened to our children as well. That these are situations where these people need help, and what they actually do is just get locked up. And it's incumbent on all of us to not look away, because we have, as a society, a duty of care to our most vulnerable people.
Yeah. Sunday Express, Michael. Are we going to see Meghan running for office?
Well, you never know. All eyes this week will be on, well, first of all, it's her birthday. I think it's on the 4th of August, sorry. She's going to be the 40. Life begins for her, although I think she's had quite a life already. But at the end of the week, it's Barack Obama's 60th. And he's having a big bash at Martha's Vineyard over in the States. And there is speculation that Harry and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, could be there. And there was a spread yesterday in the Mail talking about how they have become very friendly with many people in the Democratic Party, and particularly Barack Obama and his wife Michelle as well, and that they are being groomed for some sort of political power over there, or to run for office. Now, we did a poll in the Sunday Express, 1,000 people in the States, 1,000 people here, 80% in the States and 65% here said they shouldn't bother running for political office, or Meghan shouldn't be. But there had been, according to this, good for Anglo-British relations, apparently, according to this poll, a majority both sides of the Atlantic, and have been a force for good. So despite certain narratives in certain areas, I think some people do still have some sort of affection for Meghan and Harry, although you wouldn't believe that from some headlines. But I think overall the idea is that they shouldn't particularly push their political ambitions too far. They should stick to writing books, because I think she's got one about wellness coming out next year, and Harry seems to be writing a whole volume of memoirs as well. So that should keep them busy. But you never know, if they turn up at Martha's Vineyard and hang out with the Obamas, then the speculation will start again.
Yeah, it will. Look, this last one I want to talk about is yours as well, Michael, though. Chip in, Mary-Ann. It's the Sunday Mirror, a breakfast revolt against these things on toast called avocados. I mean, I'm too northern for this. Why would you want an avocado on toast? What's going on?
Well, again, there's another survey saying that 180 out of 2,000 people who took part in this survey reckoned, and what it's called in here is the super healthy Mexican tree fruit, or avocado, as we call it, or crushed up and with a bit of flavouring is guacamole, I think, in some people's households. We don't want it on our breakfast menus. It's too trendy. And 2/5 were actually annoyed to see it on a menu. I mean, what's wrong with people? I mean, Mary Ann in the last hour said people were listening to jazz. Now we're getting annoyed by avocado.
Oh, no, you see, I get annoyed when I see it on a menu. It's just way too trendy for me. Mary Ann?
Well, you don't have to eat it, Stephen. Just let other people eat their avocados. The only thing I'd say about avocados, and I've gone off on this on social media previously, is that the people who are trying to be, environmentally conscious, so they're perhaps choosing a non-meat option, and they go for the avocado, might not be aware of the environmental footprint of that. What was it? A green, tasty treat fruit. Because they require a lot of water, they get air freighted from distant countries. So do think wisely. Perhaps you need turnips on toast instead.
Oh, no, see, turnip I could have. Turnip I could have. Have you ever seen an avocado in real life, Michael?
I know my way around an avocado. Thank you very much. I even eat the stones.
And I thought you were meant to be a proper northerner. Look, really good to see you both this morning. Thanks very much indeed. Top stories heading away in just a minute.
Proper cringe fan fictions.
Good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock. This is Sky News Breakfast. Top stories today.